Welcome to BBC News, broadcasting to Britain and around the world. I'm Sian Williams. The headlines. World Cup misery for thousands of British football fans as the government investigates an alleged ticket scandal. Germany mourns the dead as the toll of the high-speed rail crash rises. And bad news for borrowers as the Bank of England puts up interest rates.
This is BBC News, broadcasting to the United Kingdom and around the world. The headlines: a key committee in the American Congress has voted in favour of impeachment proceedings against President Clinton. The committee's decision came shortly after the president apologised again for the Monica Lewinsky affair.
What I want the American people to know, what I want the Congress to know, is that I am profoundly sorry for all I have done wrong in words and deeds.
As Mr. Clinton prepares to go to the Middle East, 2 Palestinians have been killed in renewed clashes with Israeli troops. And here in Britain, the former Chilean leader Augusto Pinochet has appeared in court for the first time at the start of a legal battle to have him extradited to Spain. Hello and welcome, I'm Adrian Finnegan.
Britain is burning more livestock amid fears that foot and mouth disease could spread abroad. After a fierce debate, Israel's Labour Party votes to join a government of national unity. Stranded in Mozambique, whole communities are cut off as the Zambezi bursts its banks. And both the United Nations and America criticise China's human rights record. Hello, this is BBC News. I'm Clarence Mitchell.
The ricin find. 6 men are arrested in Dorset overnight, while 4 others face court charged with terrorism offences.
Store wars. Now Sainsbury's joins the battle to buy Safeway.
Nuclear security alert. Protesters break into the main control building at Sizewell B.
And Sri Lanka pile up a formidable total against England in Australia. Good morning, this is BBC News 24 with Joanna Gosling and Philip Hayton.
Making history ahead of time, the US coalition hands over power in Iraq 2 days earlier than planned. This is the moment that George Bush and Tony Blair hear the news from Iraq. Prisoners at Guantanamo Bay are given the right to challenge their detention.
Also ahead this hour, as Iraqis take charge, we're live with our correspondent Caroline Hawley in Baghdad. Hot under the collar, the new boss of M&S faces questions over share deals. And so far, so good. Tim Henman, 2 sets up and cruising against Philip Gilsis.
A cloning breakthrough. Scientists create the first stem cells tailored to match patients. Stay with us for the latest here on BBC News 24. The other headlines at 7 o'clock. Suspended, the policeman who allegedly told a Kurdish teenager that he'd smash his Arab face in. The Downing Street talks. Gerry Adams says the Good Friday Agreement is the only way forward. The EU rebate. President Chirac leads calls to slash Britain's £3 billion refund.
Also in this hour, winds of change, how the turbines will help sustain Britain's renewable energy. And ruled out of court, CNN host Larry King cannot testify for Michael Jackson.
Two brothers are found guilty of killing the schoolboy Damilola Taylor. The 10-year-old bled to death after an attack in South London 6 years ago. His parents say no verdict can bring him back.
It is a great comfort that justice has finally been done for Damilola. We pray that his gentle soul can now rest in peace.
Damilola's killers had already been cleared of murder at a previous trial. And after claims that royal phones have been intercepted, police continue to question two men. It's 5 o'clock. Our main story is that two brothers have been found guilty of the manslaughter of the schoolboy Damilola Taylor.
Good afternoon, it's midday. The headlines on BBC News 24. Not our finest hour. British Airways Chief Executive apologises to passengers for the Terminal 5 chaos.
British Airways has not delivered and we need to deliver. And I'm determined to make this fantastic facility, Terminal 5, I'm determined to make it work.
But the problems continue for passengers as BA cancels dozens of flights today.
Everybody looks forward to the holidays and time is really, really precious. And we're now hanging around in the airport for a whole day of a holiday, doing nothing really. So.
In other news, Basra violence. Iraq's Prime Minister extends the deadline for militants to hand over their weapons.
Robert Mugabe puts the security forces on full alert ahead of Zimbabwe's presidential election.
Also coming up in the next hour, more misery for London Underground passengers. Transport unions announce a 3-day strike next month in a dispute over safety issues.
And 12 years after the horrific attack which killed her mother and sister and left her badly injured, Josie Russell talks about her recovery and her family.
Good afternoon. Passengers using Heathrow's new Terminal 5 could face disruption for a third day running. The British Airways Chief Executive Willie Walsh said he expected there would be some cancellations tomorrow.
The government and public sector unions on a collision course over pay and pensions. Unions warn of mass walkouts over proposals to raise the retirement age to 66.
This idea that a simple way of doing it is just to impose change, including imposing a change in the pension age, that's not acceptable.
But the government says it's the best option that will be available for years to come. Also on tonight's programme, 2/3 of people who applied for Olympic tickets failed to get a single one.
I cannot think, given the complexity, the huge demand, the numbers involved, that we could have produced a system that would have been fairer.
As the fighting in Libya intensifies, we follow a student from a British university now on the front line. Cleared of harassment, the man who tweeted and blogged about his wife's affair all over the net. And the pioneering research into Parkinson's disease, turning skin into pieces of brain.
And in Sports Day at 6:30 on the News Channel, Villa get their man. Alex McLeish is their new manager, but rivals Birmingham City say they want compensation.
Good evening, welcome to the BBC News at 6. A major shake-up to the pensions of millions of public sector workers has been confirmed by the government.
Hello, good afternoon. A British-born American journalist who was kidnapped by Al-Qaeda in Yemen more than a year ago has died during a rescue mission led by US Special Forces.
Today at 5, a third person in the UK tests positive for coronavirus and is being taken to a specialist NHS treatment centre. As tests continue, it's revealed the person did not catch the virus in China, where most cases have been found, but elsewhere in Asia.
Our view is there's now a group of countries where the risk is very, very much lower than China and very, very much lower in particular than Wuhan and Hubei. But it's probably sufficient that we move on to our next stage, which is slightly to expand the geographical boundaries where we're giving this advice.
Meanwhile, the death toll in China has risen to 565, but Beijing's ambassador to the UK says the reaction has been excessive.
Rumors and panic are more frightening than the virus itself.
Yes, we'll be asking a specialist for the latest guidance on the spread of coronavirus and what response is considered appropriate. The other main stories on BBC News at 5. Scotland's Finance Secretary has resigned on the day of the budget after sending messages to a 16-year-old boy on social media. The First Minister said there was no place for him in government.
Derek Mackay's conduct fell far short of what is expected of a minister. Indeed, he offered his resignation to me and I accepted it was not an option for him to remain in government.
President Trump will be speaking in public for the first time very shortly since being cleared at his impeachment trial in the US Senate. And this is the scene at the White House right now. The President, due to make a statement shortly, will bring that to you.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
And later in the hour, tributes to the Hollywood legend Kirk Douglas, who's died at the age of 103. It's 5 o'clock. Our main story is that a third person has now tested positive in the UK for coronavirus.